Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 78th episode of our first run through House of Light, or rather the House of Light expansion for Book of Hours on YouTube. We're sort of midway through the day. We are reading a couple of new texts, and at some point I would like to be able to make the Solomon's Preparation. I'm not going to take advantage of the snow, but I figure the snow is a nice opportunity for me to be able to get the preparation so that when I choose to, we can enter the Worm-Eaten Hall with Mr. Kill. I do have the option also of just using the Wormwood Dream. That's quite a powerful one. But at this point here, I think it wouldn't hurt to just get a little bit more prep done. So we really just need the passage of time. We'll try and start a little bit earlier in terms of getting the timers running. I did hire Denzel, not so much because I wanted to try and go for some of the forge stuff that we can open up, but rather I just wanted him to generate some, I would like him to generate some memories for us. And it occurred to me that I'm actually running short on water, so I'm going to draw this up twice. I'm already bringing back a health. How are we doing? Oh, I'm not doing anything with the sweet bones. That's a problem. So we'll use the shaft for that. Fixing and mending. There's not much work on offer in Brancrude, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. I could also theoretically bring back the whist, but we know we're already going to use that when we get... I'm trying to think. I mean, technically at this point I could hire Mr. Kill, and that would more or less get me ready to go for the Worm-Eaten Hall. Gonna need to have a think about that. He does a lot with Silence, this man. And Path and Pilgrim's up. This skill is now level 4. Its power aspects have also increased. Okay, moving on. Let's take the Faust, and we will open the package. Crack open the container, delight in your discovery. Okay, got a health back. I can use that for any number of things, but right now the focus here is on the existing books that I've read. And then we'll... essentially, at the halfway point of the day, we're going to decide what we want to do with the other half of the day as far as skills and... as far as skills and... other kinds of leveling and crafting are concerned. So, The Sun's Lament, the first volume of the meditations of Abbot Thomas of the Abbey of the Black Dove. The thornbeak crows took my eyes from me in justice for my crimes, but though I lost my sight, I found my light. Abbot Thomas speaks of the breaking of his oaths to his sword brother Trygeave and to the Lord of Scars that he served before he came to the Abbey. He writes of the power of oath bonds and considers the means and morality of their sundering. So that gets us a Ragged Crossroads. We're going to use that to level up Edicts Martial, and that gave us a fear. So I've gotten a bit of a bad habit of not properly filing these things away. I'm wondering if I should move Revelations to a higher bookshelf. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Okay, so I did that so I can turn this into a fear shelf. So that's a freebie now. All right. And The true and complete accounting of the Asclepian mysteries of the roots of the house. Descriptions of the Asclepian mysteries reproduced by one Riley Gressiff from supposedly a much older text. It's unlikely to be genuine, but it makes reference to the house without walls and its wood right there in the prologue. This is very obviously not an antique text. At the very least, it has been badly mutilated, but it contains substantial intriguing material, especially a persuasive comparison of the house without walls, without doors, to the human body with its many portals. Okay, so that gets us an impulse. I don't know if that's going to be immediately useful for me, but... And there's our weaving and not working. Oh, sorry, I should have finished reading the text. The direction of death is down, the book explains. The peacock door has been considered a rent or an abrasion, but in some respects it's more like a mouth, if not a more treasured point of entry. Discussions of the doors include a rite which may conjure creatures through those doors, though key incantations are missing. Alright, so we're eventually going to need some more space for the impulses, but this one works for now. So let's take a minute and figure out what we want. Actually, I'll take the 0.6 seconds just to... Oops. So more progress on the catwink. We'll claim that from the bridge. Okay. So one of the things that I want to level up is weaving and not weaving and not working. I want to use drums and dances, and I want to level that up. Now, we've got the impulse. The catch is I don't think, any of the other things I have are not quite ready for that yet. Edict's Martial, on the other hand, So got the Confounding Parable, which gives me the moon. I suppose in a pinch I can use the Old Wound, but that's just sort of shifting everything around. I don't really think that has a major need. Okay, before I spend too much time thinking of this, let's get my Solomon's Preparation prepared. I should probably try to... Probably should try to get some more blue crown before the end of the day. Okay, so yeah, the challenge that I run into right now is that, let's say I want to level up drums and dances. So fair enough, we'll use the health there. Yeah, so here I'd have to use the Faust and the Fet to... So effectively right now, I'd have to use every element of the soul that I have to get the memories that I need. Now I can do that, but the whole point of getting Denzel was to try and help lighten the load a bit. And of course I'm going to be able to recharge things at the Sweet Bone. So I think what I'll do here is I'll run out the clock a little bit, see if we can get a few more things from Denzel. I will speed up time a bit and just basically see... Ah, perfect. All right, so that already covers me from for drums and dances. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. It is winter and the storms have tightened the seas. I am sitting before the fire in the Sweet Bones with a beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. Okay, Foresight doesn't really help me that much, but... And Domain Reveille. I think I was actually getting low on that, so yes. A welcome find. Alright. So let's move on with drums and dances. I'd actually like to level this up a bit more than I already have, but we'll take what we can. I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. Improve the skill to level 3. So again, if I want, the Faust and the Fet can go towards the Ragged Crossroads, but let's see what we can bring up over the course of the day. Although, just as a practical matter, the things that Denzel can generate that will help me here, we already have the fear, so realistically it's the stolen secret, the intuition. I think that might be it, actually. So there's really only 2 memories that he can use to help me out. But still, we'll work with it because I don't have that much else to do for the day. I don't think there's any value in reading any more of the texts. And then this is a nice to have, mostly just as a backup. I might even get a 3rd pitcher of water tomorrow, but for now we'll just let this run through. Okay, the skill is now level 3. Its power aspects have also increased. One of the things that I'll wind up doing before too long is I'll take a small audit after I sort of level up the existing ones that I can work with, or that I already have scheduled to level up. We'll, 1, see what we can commit to the Tree of Wisdoms, but also number 2, we'll see what books I'm sort of enabled to be able to open up. So like if I take a look at these here, Cardia's Delights, right, that I can use for a Grail and a Knock. And if I just take a look at the list down here, you know, I have things like, you know, for whatever reason, if I wanted Leaves and Thorns, it's like, okay, well, I can use Cardia's Delights to level up Leaves and Thorns, and then that text that had Leaves and Thorns, maybe I'm a little more comfortable using that to level up the Herbs and Infusions. It's a similar story in terms of Knock, but in this one it might be something like, hey, let's try and bring up Preliminal Meter or Lockworks and Clockworks or something like that. All right, Impulse, not directly relevant, but we'll see. So this would probably, I think this next one will be the point where I say whatever we generate. Actually, there is one nice thing. If I use the Faust and the Fet, so I'll use these to generate the memories for the Ragged Crossroads, and then I can still use the health, and I'll use that to collect the Blue Crown. Better now. We might as well earn the money at this point. Okay, so that's another fear. I think at this point we know we're gonna read the relevant books, so I will get... We've already got a Confounding Parable. So here we could use the Contradictions. And then... I mean, I could do an Intuition, but probably Assault is a little more appropriate. Well, I don't know about appropriate, but it's not something that Denzel can make, so... I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. And then with that in mind, we'll use the health to collect some Blue Crown. Okay, every choice has its shadow. I wish I had maybe some slightly more clever uses for the hindsight and such today. I feel like I had a couple of opportunities I maybe let lapse. An Exorcist Field Manual, a practical guide to the troublesome dead, grounded in theory, but with a clear focus on their disposal by the redoubtable Detective Ostiary Wheellock of the Suppression Bureau. The dead usually avoid light as the most immediate manifestation of eternity, which has no place for death. However, those dead uplifted by gold, that is to say touched by an actinic theoplasma, happily bought about in daylight and are perhaps strongest at noon. If you are dead but uplifted by green, that's the Ringyu's blessing. The crown growth offers a similar but nastier benefit. This is how burgeoning risen come about, but there are different degrees of sentience and freedom depending on which growths are involved. The consciousness of one uplifted by green is always altered, though. They never really seem like the same person. They may have dregs of their original souls, but these are often replaced by something else. The upshot, invariably, is that they need to be set firmly on fire. The Queen's Turn, a 16th century translation of the Barrowchild's account of Lagia's turn, when Lagia, the queen unsated, was offered the opportunity to enter the service of the Hours of the Triple Knot, as long as she repudiated her brother-lover Antaios. Lagia accepts, setting aside the arts of the low red sun associated with Antaios. She bargains, however, for freedom for her daughters. The hours of the triple knot accept casually, knowing that Lagia has devoured her daughters, but wily Lagia has decided, in the secret hollow of her heart, that she will adopt any who ask, if they can prove their fierceness. The traditions described here, the ones generally described as hill and hollow, are associated with Lagia before her turn, but now that she is a name of the Red Grail, they might also be safely used before an altar of the triple knot. And finally, as they used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. Okay, so let's take the Edicts Martial, the Medal, Ragged Crossroads, and the 4 lessons. So satisfying to have come so far. Feels a little weird to play on fast forward like this, but I'm at least reasonably happy that we've made the progress we have through the various lessons. Okay, so for these, I don't know if we have a clear path. Actually, this is a bit of a funny one, because I don't believe we have stitching and binding yet. I should probably prioritize reading this one. But I don't. Or Solace gives me heart. Okay, let's see what we can do with that. Nope, wrong one. Actually, I should have waited for Denzel to finish. Although he can't give me higher than 2 heart. So one nice side effect here, or actually, sorry, I already had the ability to get the old wound right away. But any base level Edicts Martial item is now available to me, regardless of what element of the soul I put in. Oh, that was technically true if I used a tool anyway. One nice practical side benefit of having Edicts Martial at level 5 is if I go here, because the Noctonary allows for both memories in both the memory and shadow slot, I could get a... let's say I was willing to take 2 elements of the soul to make a Wormwood Dream. Essentially, I'd use 2 elements of the soul to generate, let's say, an Impulse and a Confounding Parable. And then from there, it would take me the 90 seconds. But essentially, that's a free pass to getting Mr. Kill to open up various rooms for me. Okay, so I'm in a little bit of a tricky spot here now, because I think I've used up sort of the low-hanging fruit as far as the various texts are concerned. Let's actually, here's one simple thing I can do. So I'm going to make some notes. So one thing I'm going to do here is erase my old notes of followers. I'm going to start making some notes of the skills that I have committed. And the idea here is any of the books that have the skills that I've committed, I should be reading those as soon as possible, just to level up the other things that I want to bring up. So, Pentiments and Precursors. Ragged Crossroads. Spices and Savors. It's Resurgences and Emergences, yeah. Weaving and Not Working. I think that's it. So I just want to follow up on a small note that I wrote down here. if I'm not mistaken, I think I actually put... So I noticed that I didn't put this on my to-do list, but I think I said that Isen Fekri knows Deepman Dayak. So... just in the name of... Oh god, I don't even remember what. Heart. Okay. I'm gonna feel really bad if I don't try this. So request Isen's presence. We'll do that today. All right. So again, the aim right now is just to find any candidates. So for instance, Gemini Volume 1, that's got weaving and not working. That should definitely be on the list. Technically, so should 26 Enticement, 7 Torments, but there's no way I'm getting the 14 Grail required. Okay, so the Berry Book is not in that spot. 1,000 Threads. Udrakahas, so that one's kind of tempting for the Stone Stories. And we're actually getting closer to it. I don't think we have a 2-scale lesson, though. The Tripled Heart. Now, I guess we haven't really worked out what I want to do with my Tridesma Hyra, but there's certainly an argument to put that up higher on the list. Okay. I think all the VAC texts are quite challenging ones. Observations on the Peacock Door, maybe not so much. Ooh. There's some interesting possibilities there. So I think if we did something like this, through an Edicts Marshal, a Tryst, Lunar Globe. So yeah, we're really just... I mean, we could even use the Old Wound in this case. But we'd actually be able to read observations on the Peacock Door. That would get me Sickle and Eclipse, and theoretically I could use that to level up Edicts Marshal, although I haven't yet committed Sharps yet, so maybe I don't want to... The thing is, I don't want to pull away all of my my lessons towards Edicts Marshal, especially because I have other options. So let's take a quick second here. So Cardea's Delights is a perfect example of something that I should be using to level up my other skills. So we're definitely putting that in the pile. Don't know about... Yeah, so some of these we haven't made firm determinations yet. 7 Shards I'd actually like to read reasonably soon because I know Disciplines of the Hammer is something that I'm going to put up higher. We actually don't yet have Rhyme and Remembrance, so I should be reading Barrowchild's Elegies sooner rather than later. Although we don't yet have a candidate for a high-level winter. Maybe that's something for me to think about. Unhatched Hymns. Now that's a big one because that gets me... oh god, what was it? Savage Hymns. Okay, White Book of Brittany also has a certain charm. I really don't want to break up this collection here. But unfortunately here we start to get to the books that are actually quite challenging to read. So I think at this point we'd say, okay, we'll leave it aside. A bit of a shame that there aren't more texts that I can work with here, but we definitely have something to start with. So let's say we have the Gemini... Oh, right, we're using this desk. So if we go to Nona's desk, if we take the Geminiad, we add the core... and I'm using, well, we could use drums and dances now. So from that we'd use the Fusine, which I believe does have a heart element. Yes, it does. Okay. So there we'd actually just use the Solace. Okay, yeah. So we're going to use this to level up drums and dances. So the next question would be, based on what I know of Edge, if we took the Ascendant, If we took Edicts Martial, we can take any old edge, so we'll say Arab here. Hyksos should give me 1? Yeah. Okay, so if I just take the Cucurbit Barrette or a saw, then I add another 2 edge, which I think I can get through the contradictions, and we can read the Ascendant, which I can use to level up Edicts Martial. So I've got a pretty clear idea in terms of how I want to use the day-to-day. So we'll start by using the Shapt to generate the contradiction that I need. I don't need to do that for the Geminiad, seeing as we're already going to get the I forgot to... Oh, no, we've got it here. So yeah, in 30 seconds, we will have the heart that we need. I might as well earn a bit of money at the Sweet Bones, although, again, I don't want that to be the main focus of the day. And then, while we're working, I can use the Tryst to make the ink that I need. We'll be making a replacement for what we got to bring Eason in anyway, but it's that's definitely money well spent. So clearly we're not going to get through all of this today, but it's definitely enough for me to... Actually, Clouds help me out because I'll be able to use that to level up Edicts Martial. Now I just need to post it. There's actually 2 things I'm going to do. So we will send for Eason, but I'm also going to bring in Denzel. I think in this case, though, I will use the core. I'm always welcome at Denzel's Smithy. Denzel rarely works for free, but he won't take payment for helping a friend. Also, I will drop some more water. And I'm going to use this surplus to restore the heart that I used to bring in Denzel. Pour it out. The postmistress examines the letter and deems it sufficient. It'll go with the next post, she assures me. So the Deep Mandayak discovery, I really should have followed through on that. It's bad of me not to have made the notes. But this particular discovery is going to really help me just because that unlocks Horomakistry. And basically with that last language, not only does it give me access to all of the books, which of course, as I've said many times, getting access to a book at this point is not that important simply because I have so many of them. But what it does do is it now lets me sort of... At this point, I can start making some hard decisions and say, okay, here are the lessons that I have access to. Here's what I want to put in the Tree of Wisdoms. I don't even need to worry about mixing and matching the right skills and so on and so forth. Essentially, I can say, okay, so I've got this at level 2, and I can put this one up to level 3, and that unlocks this path, and so on and so forth. So I can really actually sort of, start putting that extra effort into working down this list. And one of the things I will probably want to do fairly quickly is start looking at, okay, so what are the skills that I want to take up to that highest level? Can I put those investments in first? Because of course that sort of gets the flywheel going and I can start accessing the books at this end, which give me more memories overall. So, before we get too carried away, speak to Denzel. He might even reply. And we'll use that one to restore the core that I use, or we will in 8 seconds at least. Again, I talked more about my plans rather than implemented the plans, but we are definitely in a good spot for today. So, we'll bring back the core. Again, we've got more than enough because of the commitments that we made. Next up, we'll use Natan's desk with the core, the solace. We will add the Geminiad Volume 1 and the Fusine. Heart onwards. I can master this mystery, enough heart to match mystery heart. So the aim on this one is going to be, we're going to put it towards drums and dances, and we should expect 2 lessons out of this one because it's level 10. So eventually we'll be taking drums and dances up to level 5, which will give me 6 heart and 5 nectar, although we're not as worried about the nectar because of stone stories. Although, I mean, it does make it equal to stone stories, I suppose. What else? I mean, we're pretty much at time here. Let me just take a second to make sure. Yeah. I think I'm just going to write these down really quick. So 1. So Deep Mandaic lessons with Eason. Weaving and not working goes into drums and dances. Read the Ascendant. That should be self-explanatory for the Edicts Martial. And I think that's... Oh, yeah, and then make Catwink. So I actually think that will more or less occupy my elements of the soul for the day, because, of course, Edicts Martial is going to require 5 memories. We do have the clouds, and in a pinch I can use the Old Wound. I'd be reluctant to use the Wormwood Dream, but obviously leveling up Edicts Martial makes it easier. In fact, if I think about it, so the Ascendant, if it's level 10 and it gives me 2 memories, that would mean that the Moon is up to 8. Now, we're always going to need a memory for that, but basically I could put any old memory inside with a Tryst and a lunar globe, and at that point we're guaranteed to get a Wormwood Dream. And that's a great place to be because, you know, especially with some of these lower level winter rooms, it's just a question. I may not even need to bring in Mr. Kill in certain circumstances. So if you think of it, Mr. Kill costs me a shilling to hire, but if I need 11 winter, I just use a Wormwood Dream, a Solomon's Preparation, and then I can use my Whist on Denzel. And the only real thing that I'm down 1 on would be the element of the soul that I use to bring in Denzel. But that seems to be a pretty simple cost. Obviously, to get the equivalent of that, I'd need 2 rounds at the Sweet Bones, which would be, that's more of a cost in terms of time. One of the consideration that I'll have is I am going to want to think about the next salon. We're doing pretty well as far as ingredients are concerned. Opening up this room on its own won't get me access to the second kitchen. And in fact, that kitchen's a nice one to have simply because I could use my Faust and my Whist to cook in addition to the existing health, Arab, and core in the servants' quarters. So most, but not all, of my elements of the soul would be fair game for the cooking. But again, that's not a major priority here. That's more just a, you know, given that my Edicts Martial is going to be higher and the Wormwood Dream is less costly to obtain, that's something that's been enabled. The other consideration, of course, would be once I sort of, you know, deal with the implications of getting Deep Mandaic, that I've unlocked all the different branches of the Tree of Wisdoms. The other thing that I'll want to think about would be where do I want to, what other books do I add to this collection here? But like I said, the main consideration that I'll have for the immediate future is how do I get those last ones, particularly Winter. What skills am I going to be using to bring up to that higher level? And there's a couple. So like I think Sights and Sensations would be a good example of something that I could probably take to a higher level. I think that's one that I normally put in Hushery, so I might have been reluctant to commit that one. Yeah, the more I think of it. Snow Stories is actually another candidate. But yeah, Sights and Sensations and Snow Stories. The only thing that makes me think that maybe Sights and Sensations is better is that I've got an 8 Winter, which I think I can handle. That'll get me 2 lessons. So with that, I can drag this up to a level 5. Oh yeah, actually this has a higher sky, so maybe Snow Stories does make more sense. Anyways, neither here nor there. We'd have a 5 winter to work with. Let's say that we do decide to put it to Sights and Sensations, and then that just puts us in, shooting distance of something like Barrowchild's Elegies and so on and so forth. Anyways, stuff that I can handle in a future episode. Thank you all for watching this week. It was a little haphazard in terms of the different paths that we went, but I like that we're going a bit further through the Tree of Wisdoms. I really like that we're higher up on Edicts Martial now, and I'm very much looking forward to putting in Deep Mandiac and opening up that last branch of the Tree of Wisdoms, because I do know Horamakistry is one that usually opens up a few other avenues. In fact, I should make a high priority to get to that level 5 so that I can open up Ithistry and start putting things in there as well. Of course, all that'll be happening in future episodes. I hope you have a nice weekend, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.